Hello everyone, this is Jamie here. Welcome to another session of Vista Export Services. In this session, we'll show you how to submit multiple 3D cameras and scenes using an amazing plugin called Overlap Batch Render. So without further ado, let's start by googling the words Overlap Batch Render. Click the Spline Dynamics link here. This is the page where we can find a quick video about it. Here are the descriptions, examples. In here, we have the trial and the full version of the link to download. Let's start with the trial version for the purpose of this exercise. Once downloaded, in 3ds Max, let's open the plugin by first going to Scripting and choosing to run script. Select and open the downloaded script. This is the Overlap Batch Render plugin loaded. To create its toolbar button like these ones here, please check the previous tutorials. As you can see, this scene has 4 different camera setups. The Overlap Batch Render plugin uses multiple cameras and stage settings to submit the current 3D scene and external files with a click of a button. Under Settings, we have the 3ds Max Batch Render tool, State Sets and Scene States. These 3 options need to be enabled at all times. To set up a scene state, simply go to Tools and choose to manage scene states options from the list. This is a dialog. To save scene states, simply click on the Save button. The Save Scene State dialog allows users to save scene states such as light properties, camera transforms, camera properties, and so on. These scene paths can be saved for this camera view only if you wish, and save a different set of the scene paths for another camera by saving it under a different scene state name. Once your scene paths are selected, simply type in the state name here. For the purpose of this exercise, let's type in this camera name and click to save. As you can see, the saved set with its paths are now here. This button allows users to restore any previously saved states. Some of the previously saved parts of the scene, such as object properties, can be later changed by right-clicking and choosing properties from the selected object, and change some of its default functions of some of the render settings. Many scene state paths can be edited for this camera only and saved. As mentioned earlier, users can restore selected scene states, rename and delete, or click to save again, and select different parts of the scene to save over. Choose to overwrite the previous scene state. Users can save a host of new scene states here for each of these cameras. To save a new scene state, click to save and rename the scene state. Select the scene parts you want to save and click to save. Now we have 2 separate scene states that can be used for 2 separate cameras. Once you're happy with your scene states, click to close. This is how users would normally set up a scene state. State sets are similar to scene states. To set them up, simply go to the rendering toolbar and choose the state sets from the list. As an example, let's assume you wanted this chair isolated as a state set. Click on Isolation button. In the States toolbar, simply choose to add state. The state 02 was created. The state 01 was the default scene. As you can see here, there's the object section, which recorded the current state of the objects in the scene. There's also the compositor toolbar with all its functionalities to be set up if required, and the sequence toolbar with options to assign a camera and change the sequence mode. Back to the states toolbar, we have a host of options to add state template, render outputs, render all states, delete, add scripts and much more. Exit the isolation mode. To turn the state 02 on and off, simply click on this arrow here. This is our state created. Users can right click to rename or use any of these least set functions. Often, when using state sets, there's no need to work with scene states or batch renders. State sets are quite robust and more complete to work with. To set up the 3ds Max Batch Render tool, simply go to Rendering toolbar and choose to Batch Render from the list. Batch Render is a watered down version of state sets. You can also use scene states and presets to send out renders. To set up a specific camera to render, simply click the Add button. A default name was created. While selected, go to the Name section to rename it. Let's go to this camera view and choose to select the camera. Right click on the text and choose to select all, followed by right clicking again and choosing to copy. In the Name section, right click and choose to paste and press Enter on your keyboard. We need to press Enter in order for the name to change here. The output path allows users to set the location of the render files. To set up the location, simply click on its toggle and choose a location. Under Cameras, we can simply choose a relevant camera. Under Scene State, we can load a pre-saved scene state file for a specific camera. Under Preset, we can load one or save a new one by opening the Render Setup dialog. All these V-Ray parameters can be saved as preset. Go to the Preset function and choose to save it. While saving, the Select Preset Categories dialog should be prompted. We can choose all parts or some of the listed ones and click to save. With the preset saved, users can simply load it from the list. Batch render has known issues with the NAT render function, so avoid using this function if you can. The override preset allows users to override the render output size dimensions previously set in the render setup dialog. If you were to close this max file as it is now, the current batch render setup would have become part of this 3D scene. So next time you open the max scene and go to batch render, this dialog would appear with these presets loaded. We can also have the current batch render presets by clicking to export batch render button. New cameras, presets and outputs can be added to the batch render list using the previous steps. Before sending any files via overnight batch render, we can override the original render output size values here to do some local test renders and etc. Users can also set new output file name for the test renders. If we don't set up the render output file name for any of the render scenes in the queue, the output file names of the scenes will be automatically saved in a default location seen here. This function forces 3ds Max to ignore any potential render warnings when enabled. This function overrides any existing file names when enabled. This function forces 3ds Max to shut down once all render tasks are completed. This button is to simply render files in the queue. Before sending external 3ds Max files to the overnight batch render queue, let's turn off the override render settings first. Ensure we have these three functions enabled at all times. If you happen to have all three options loaded in your 3ds Max scene, the overnight batch render will pick one of the three options to execute the renders. As mentioned earlier, when setting up your 3D scenes, either use the state sets because it's more robust, reliable and complete, or the batch render in conjunction with the scene states for all presets as shown earlier. To load up your 3ds Max scene to render, simply click to show render queue. Next, click to add files and select a host of 3ds Max files previously set up ready to render as previously shown. If the other 3ds Max scenes are not set up as previously shown, the overnight batch render will simply pick the active camera in the scene and render it. The output file name and location will be saved with the default settings previously shown. Once added, you should end up with a list of 3ds Max files as seen here. Another way to add multiple 3ds Max files into the render queue is to click on the folder button and set a location of where the 3ds Max files will be added from. This button allows users to clear all listed files from the render queue. Users can also set the total number of files and click OK. We can also add a current scene to the render queue by clicking on this button here. Once you're happy with everything, simply click to render files. These are some of the final render files. I really hope you found this tutorial useful, like and share it, and I hope to see you on my next one.